Can the ugliest package I've ever seen on AliExpress hold the nicest controller I've ever felt? Let's take a look. With plenty of controllers already on hand, is there a reason I bought this new controller to use? I recently went through a cancellation with my Neo Next, so I did really want to try those Hall sensors they promised, so this is why I picked this up in the first place. This controller does come with a little carry bag, which is kind of nice. You don't really see that with a lot of controllers. The more you hear about a product, if you keep hearing good things about it, you're kind of skeptical until you actually buy it yourself, which is why I wanted to pick up this KingKong Pro 2 controller from GuliKit. As far as the price goes, this isn't actually a very expensive controller. It cost me about $67.50 Canadian when I ordered it from the official Ali store. Compared to the controller I've been using for a while now, the DualSense retails at $89.99 Canadian here, which is pretty expensive for a controller, which is really why I was kind of interested in seeing how this one performed. The packaging on this controller does feel very solid, so I expect high things from it already before I even open it up. So as soon as you open the box, you're greeted with the controller, but it is in a little protective case, which I was not expecting. It's kind of a nice touch to see from a controller manufacturer. All in all, a nice touch from GuliKit. Definitely going to be using this when I store my controller. In the box, you don't get too many extras. You get the controller, the cover case, the instruction manual, and a USB Type-C charging cable. And they also throw a little bit of advertising in the box as well. The cable they throw in the box is actually pretty decent too. I was expecting them to just throw a generic cable in. This is a flat cable, so it's really good for cable management. And unfortunately we don't get any more goodies in the box. That's it, just the cable and the one. With everything out of the package out of the way, let's take a look at the controller and see how it performs. Now on the bottom here is a little clip to open up the case, so let's just pop that open and take the controller out. Coming in at roughly 60 grams less than the DualSense controller, I was worried that this was going to feel a little cheap in the hand, but I'm glad to report that is not the case. The main feature about this controller would be these Hall sensors on the triggers and the joysticks themselves, and they do feel really nice. Compared to your typical mechanical controller, these joysticks feel very smooth, and the triggers do as well. I'm not sure if this metallic finish here is actually metal or is just plastic coated to look like metal, but it does feel very high quality. I'm sure the joysticks though underneath are metal. So a very, very good first impression from the controller. The surface of the controller itself has this very smooth coating to it. You can see it's kind of got a subtle texture as well. One thing I do notice is having this material on the controller sure makes it very comfortable to hold. It's very smooth. The back of the controller also has a different texture completely from the front. It's got the same kind of soft material to it, but it's got bumps on it, which kind of gives a little bit extra grip. On the top of the controller, you have the pairing button over here, and you have the mode button just on the other side, which you can also use to shut the controller off by double tapping it. And it turns the controller on as well. The controller also has the Type-C up here where you can use to charge the controller. Now to switch the controller mode, all you have to do is just hold down the mode button up here for a couple seconds and it'll switch. Give it a couple seconds and then hold it down again and it'll switch to a different mode again. If you haven't used a Hall sensor before, there's really nothing to describe it to. They're very, very smooth, but there's no mechanical resistance because it's just magnets. All in all, these are the best joysticks I've seen on a controller, and I'm very happy with them. The D-pad itself is a very good D-pad. It's not too bad. I definitely felt better. It does carry the same kind of material over from the controller. It's very soft. Pushing in the center of the D-pad here, it does click, but the outsides are really nice too. All in all, it's a decent D-pad. I think you'll be happy with it. Now, the clickiness of these bumpers here is one thing I do not care for on this controller. I've never really cared for clicky keyboards or anything like that in general, so this is probably just a personal thing, and I doubt it's going to bother everyone. The triggers are based on Hall sensor technology, so they offer the same kind of smooth feedback that you get from the joysticks. They're really nice, and I think everyone's going to enjoy these triggers. I did notice one thing when I started playing with this, and I'll show you. This did go away, but listen to the squeak. Now, if the sound hadn't gone away, I probably would have gotten rid of the controller then and there. The phase buttons feel nearly identical to a DualSense. The only difference is the DualSense is a little softer. Another thing to look at here is the buttons are really glossy, so they'll get really smudgy very fast. When I'm using the D-pad itself, I'm not actually this bad at using it. I'm just kind of showing you where I'm initially going with my finger when I'm trying to use the D-pad. You almost have to adjust just to the right a little bit to use it properly. Now, because every controller I have currently has a D-pad on top, I'm not used to it being on the bottom like this, but it's also off to the middle. It kind of just throws me off. Again, that's probably just a personal thing. I don't think that's going to be a problem for a lot of people. And playing a game here with the controller, you can see it is a very natural movement with the joysticks themselves. It's a very comfortable controller. I don't think anyone's going to have any problems with these joysticks. Now, a little quality control issue here I have on my right joystick. You can kind of see that the plastic on the joystick itself wasn't cut off completely, so you can see it sticking out on the side. Not the end of the world, but not the nicest thing to see on a premium controller. Continuing with the trend of weird stuff going on with this right joystick, if you pull down the thumbstick a little bit, you can kind of see a little piece of metal sticking out. Luckily, it's not visible from any other angle, and it's just a visual thing. It's not rubbing, it's not causing the joystick any friction or anything, and it does still work very smooth. I did reach out asking the company what this was, and they just told me it's just a piece of metal. The controller itself comes with this cheap little bag. Honestly, I'm not super impressed with the quality of this bag, but it's nice that they threw it in, I guess. This bag kind of feels like something that you'd find at the Looney store. The zipper works, and it is a nice little case, but don't expect it to be premium at all. They definitely put all their money in the controller. The bag itself does fit the controller very well. Just make sure you don't hit any of the buttons or it'll turn on the controller. I'd be personally okay with not even receiving this thing because I don't really think I'm going to use it. I might use it for a different controller I'm not using, but definitely not for this controller. If you want my recommendation for something to store this in, just store it in the little clear case they gave you in the box. That's going to be a lot higher quality item. The upcoming latency test was recorded just as the input was pressed completely down, so both these triggers and both of the buttons were recorded as soon as the input was registered. Now, as you'll see in the upcoming clip, the trigger on the DualSense is only pushed about halfway down, and that's because that's where the input starts registering. To show the difference between these two controllers, I've slowed down the clips to 10% of the normal speed. Just a quick overview of the controller and what I like about it. The ergonomics are comfortable, it's light, it's got an excellent battery at about 24 hours, it's a budget-friendly flagship device, and it's got great compatibility. The joysticks are also immune to drift. And so what I don't like about it, it is still quite an expensive controller. Some people do not like a light controller. It's got Nintendo defaults, and it's got very clicky bumpers. Wireless input lag is also a con. I personally didn't even notice it until I started recording clips and looking at them side by side. Because of the wireless input lag, I wouldn't use it as a competitive gaming controller unless you have it plugged in. I don't personally notice it while gaming, but I don't play a lot of shooters. Is this an easy controller to recommend? Yeah, I'd say so. It's a really comfortable controller and I think everyone's going to enjoy using it. Now in the meantime, I think I'm going to go back to playing on this controller. This has become my main daily driver controller, replacing the DualSense because I don't play a lot of competitive gaming. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below. Thanks.